Hello everyone, this is ScabCat242. So I figured it's the month of October and might as well talk about some of my favorite horror movies. Now, I have showed you my previous DVD collection video a while ago, but I don't think I ever gone into detail about some of my favorite horror movies. Now, this took a while to make a list because I have a lot of horror movies in my DVD collection. So after thinking about it, making my top 10, this is what I came up with. So, starting off, we have the original Evil Dead, directed by Sam Raimi. Now, for those who do not know, Sam Raimi actually went on to direct the Spider-Man trilogy many years later, and this was the movie that launched his directing career. Evil Dead's one of my favorite movies. I always watch this all the time, even if it's not October. I've actually met the actor Bruce Campbell, who stars in this at a convention years ago. Yeah, but this is a must-watch. Evil Dead's great. Oh, and the sequels are great too. Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, and Army of Darkness. And actually, the Ash vs. the Evil Dead series on Starz is definitely worth watching as well. So there's Evil Dead for you. Next is ReAnimator. This is one of those movies, if they were to make this now, no way they would get away with it. This movie is messed up. Basically, it's dealing with bringing back the dead to life, but also there are moments of animal cruelty in this movie, some necrophilia. This is a pretty gory movie. I forgot, I think this came out in either 87 or 88. It's been a while since I watched this, but I always enjoy this one. It's loosely based on the H.P. Lovecraft story, but it's definitely worth watching. So yeah, that's ReAnimator. Next up, John Carpenter's The Thing. So this is a remake of a classic 50s movie, and I gotta say, this is probably John Carpenter's best movie. I love all of his movies, but this one just really stands out. Special effects, the tone of the movie, how they pulled the effects off at that time, it's amazing, because you have to remember, during the 80s, there was no CGI, this was all practical effects, and of course, Kurt Russell is just a badass in this movie as well, so definitely recommend watching The Thing. Next up, Hellraiser, directed by Clive Barker. So I'm a fan of Clive Barker. He's known for most of his books. Originally, this was based on a novel called The Hellbound Heart, and this is a really unique movie. Basically, it's instead of the monsters looking for you, it's the monsters you can be summoned. It's a really definitive 80s horror movie. I don't think there's anything like it. Now, there are a lot of sequels to it. The second one is pretty good. All the rest were kind of they're all direct to DVD. Most of them are not that great, but the first one's a classic, so I definitely recommend the first Hellraiser movie. Next up, Creepshow. This is one of my favorites I like to watch. It's basically kind of an anthology. This is directed by George Romero, who directed the Night of the Living Dead and the other Dead film series, and also all of these little shorts are written by Stephen King. So this is a great collection of little shorts in one movie. I really like this movie a lot, and I mean, it's kind of goofy by most standards today, but I enjoy watching this movie. I definitely like the EC Comics vibe of this movie, so there's Creepshow. Next up, The Exorcist. I actually just saw a screening of this movie, of the extended version, a local theater, and this is one of those movies, I think if they would have made this today, no way they would get allowed to. It's probably one of the best demon possession movies ever made, and there's been a lot of copycat movies about this, but it's one of the best. Just the effects, makeup work, the music, it's a great movie. It's pretty amazing for what they accomplished in 1973. Next up, The Shining. So, this is probably one of the few Stanley Kubrick movies I like. Shining's pretty creepy, but interestingly, it's not that gory or disturbing, but there are some pretty freaky moments in this movie. Of course, it stars Jack Nicholson, and I don't know what else to say this movie. It's a classic. I definitely recommend watching this, but don't watch this at a hotel alone by yourself. I made a mistake of that years ago. Next up, Pumpkinhead, directed by Stan Winston. To those who don't know who Stan Winston is, Stan Winston was actually the effects artist who was involved in Aliens, and this was actually his directing debut. This is a pretty interesting movie because it's all practical effects. It's one of the few monsters you ever see in a movie that actually looks scary. Basically, the movie's about a guy who gets revenge on these teenagers who pass into a town for accidentally killing his son, and he does this by resurrecting this hideous pumpkin creature known as Pumpkinhead. But look at that monster. I mean, God, that's terrifying. So yeah, it's Pumpkinhead. Next up, Cabin in the Woods. So a lot of people kind of hate this movie, but I actually like this because I find it as a big parody for all horror movies. It's great. Probably like the last end of the movie as well. It's kind of a, I don't know, almost like a step-by-step guide to like what to do in a horror movie situation. But basically, a bunch of teens who go to a cabin in the woods, they get attacked by zombies, or what they think are zombies, and they discover a bunch of things which are hidden in the cabin. Well, I could say the cabin underneath the cabin, but it's a cool, fun movie. It's definitely a must-watch on Halloween. And lastly, Silent Hill. Now, normally most movies based on video games tend to suck, but the first Silent Hill movie I thought was pretty good. It was a worthy effort. It was much better than the Resident Evil films. While they took some liberties on this, I really enjoyed this movie. There were some creepy moments in this. I like the use of the practical effects with the CGI effects they did in this movie. Trying to think what else. Actually, the behind the scenes on this are really great to watch as well. Now, unfortunately, the sequel that came out years later, that movie was horrible, but definitely watch the first Silent Hill movie. It's a must watch. So that is my little stack of my top 10 favorite horror movies to watch. Hope you enjoyed. I might do another video maybe later on, but that's it for now. So I hope you enjoyed watching, and stay spooky.